Welcome to In Conversation with Brad Wendes, and I'm really happy for two reasons. This is my first interview with someone that I don't know, that I've never met, so it's going to be really interesting to learn about her. And there's the operative word. This is also, shamefully, my first female guest, so I'm sorry it's taken this long. I'd like to introduce you to a comedian from Boise, Idaho. This is Krystal Moore. So, Krystal, could you introduce yourself?
Hello, like Brad said, it's Krystal Moore. It's Krystal spelled like a stripper would spell it. With a K, right? And I'm sorry I hit you with that mom eye. It's powerful. It's powerful enough. And like, oh no, she's the first girl. I am a comedian. I do produce comedy shows here in Boise, Idaho, and I make some other little online content. Yeah.
Fantastic.
That's the short of it.
Excellent. It's really nice that I can have some like different people on here, because as I'm starting to get a feel for the podcasting, it's going to make it a little bit more fun for my guests that aren't just like people in our circle of friends and people from outside Essex. So, we'll face the elephant in the room. Krystal is a partner of Chris, who was on a few weeks ago, and Chris had a lot of really interesting things to say, particularly around like how you guys met. So the first thing I'd like to ask is, Chris told us the story of how you met. I know you've heard that story that he told. Could you give us like your perspective on that story? How did you guys meet? Yes, because actually I had notes. I was like, he didn't make any mistakes. That is accurate. But like, I've told this story enough. I've told this story really to like see with my, did this actually happen? You know, like I'm telling it to myself because it's such a fantastical meet cute that sometimes I'm like, I made that up for sure. Like, that's me in my head. So I've told it to a lot of people. But it was the day before Thanksgiving. So we were all, off of work, early. And I was living, I say on the south side of State Street, which here in Boise, Idaho is not on the north side of State Street, which is a little bit nicer than the south side of State Street. And there's this little donut shop that's a pretty famous little donut shop here in Boise, Idaho called DK Donuts. And if you're in Boise, you should definitely check it out. Okay. And I went to the donut shop with a friend of mine and her boyfriend at the time, this young man she was seeing. And this was weird for me because I was actually like 100% clean eating, and I was doing jujitsu, and I had just won a gold medal for jujitsu. So like, I hadn't had a donut or anything like a donut in at least 6 years. Wow. And it was a big decision I had made, is what I'm saying. When I was like, okay, you're going to do this for your friend because it's Thanksgiving and you're just going to be grateful for it. And I got to the donut shop and I'm sitting there eating this donut, and I'm looking out the window, and I saw this old man crossing the street, and he looked homeless and drunk because he's like, leaning, just like barely crossing the street. And I thought he was going to fall. So I was watching him, keeping an eye on him, and he did. He fell as soon as he got to the other side. And there was like, it was a very busy corner. There were like city workers on the street and a male, post person, and the flower shop that was there was busy, and there was a cop pulling somebody over, and just nobody saw this old man, and it broke my heart. And I was like, that's why I'm at this this donut shop. And I popped up and I just ran out the door, and I left this like hand beaded wallet my dad had got me from the Paiute reservation in Oregon, which is like the state over. And so that was gone. That's lost. My dad was since replaced it. That's a whole other story. But, I'm running across the street to help this old man. And as I'm crossing the street, I see Chris is standing there. His bike's on the ground. So he had gotten off of his bike and he had helped the old man up. And he's kind of like, I don't really know how to help you at this point. You're up now. What do we do? And I'm running, with purpose towards this old man. And he goes, "Oi, do you know this old man?" And I go, "Shut the fuck up." Right? And he goes, I'm like, "What the fuck?" No, I'm just a good Samaritan. I have a car. I'll go get it. So I ran, I got my car, and I pulled up with it, and we put him in the car. And I have this like 2-seater Yaris at the time.
and the back seat is down, and there's a bookshelf in the back. I hadn't unloaded to my apartment yet, and this bookshelf, because I have a 6-year-old, is covered in stickers. Not like cool band stickers, like this bitch is a mom stickers, you know. And if I get there Chris, I think, didn't want to leave me alone. I'm 40 now, so 10 years ago I looked even younger, and he thought, oh God, I don't want to leave this young lady with with this old man, this strange old man. So he just popped into the back of the car, like crouched next to the bookshelf, and we took the old man to the church, which is actually just right in the neighborhood. They were doing a Thanksgiving dinner. He had missed it, and he was really upset. His name is Miles. Miles, like the aqueducts in Rome. He said that like 1,000 times. And so I kind of thought he was like maybe a little senile. But Chris, he just goes, oh, if you pop over to the shop, I'll buy him some lunch. And I'm like, okay, like the co-op, oh, you definitely live on the north side of State Street. And so we go to the co-op, and he buys him some lunch, and the old man's telling us he lives, in such and such a street, and the whole way there, I'm thinking, oh God, I hope you live there today, like now. I don't want to be knocking on the door. There's just some family there that's like, is this your old man? I'm just standing here with two strangers, actually, just two strange men. Do either of these belong to you? But he did live there. That was his house. He was a hoarder. It was a lot. He asked us to sit him down on the stack of newspapers there at the front. So, we did. It's live your best life. This is your home. You own it. And, got him all sorted, and we left. And as we closed the door, we both looked at each other. We're like, well, that was weird, And, we've been hanging out ever since, really.
That's awesome. So was the accent part of the attraction though? Like, did that draw you to Chris?
Well, I mean, it was, I can't say that it didn't, because I'm an American, and then there's like a whole, you guys have colonized everything. And, a British accent just makes you fall in line. You're like, okay, say what? What are we doing?
You guys did have that like little rebellion thing where you denounced the crown and all that. We can brush over that, but yeah.
It's true, but
yeah. There's very few countries we haven't sent an armed force to in the past. So it's
for sure. We're competing with you at present, but we do still like a British accent. We're like, okay, Daddy.
Who doesn't? Wow. Okay. I'm feeling a little bit. So obviously a comedian. You're a funny person. I'm sitting here really trying to keep my stuff together. How do you get into that? Like, were you the funny kid at school, or do you have to try and be funny?
No. I was not the funny kid at school. I was the quiet kid in school, so I was watching.
No.
Okay. I was the quiet kid in school. It wasn't until later. I was always in theater. I was always, I liked performing, and I liked doing plays and live theater, and I would round up the neighborhood kids and make them do plays for whoever would sit and watch us do plays. I do like SNL sketches with my sisters, all kinds of little characters. So I guess probably I just didn't really see myself that way, because I was more like directorial. I wasn't the funny one. I was like getting everybody together, and from everybody else's perspective, they're like, oh, she's fucking a lot, We're gonna do it. 1, 2, 3, let's go.
So you've always had a bit of intensity, just a hint of intensity around you.
Maybe a bit. I found myself here kind of accidentally. I went to this local event called Story Night, where they pick locals. Well, they're not even storytellers; they're true stories, right? They have like a theme, and anybody can submit a story, a true story about their life that makes them think about this theme or whatever. And if you're picked, then you get 10 minutes. They kind of help you, coach you through the story or whatever. And at the show itself, they have those 3 main storytellers, right? And then they have a story slam. So if you come in as the audience and you have a story, you can put your name in a hat and they draw your name. So I'm going to this late night version of this event at the back, and I am dressed just like in this plunging purple sequined neckline that is slinky, these like boots, these like jangly belts. It was a whole thing. So the lady at the front was like, "Oh, you look like you have a crime story. You should put your name in the hat." And I was like, "Excuse me, I do." and I put my name in the hat, and they drew my name, and they let me go for like 16 minutes. I won the story slam that night, and which was crazy. And I got off the stage, and I had like 4 strangers, one of whom's one of my best friends here today, but a stranger then asked if I was a stand-up comedian, and I said no, that just happened to me, and it wasn't funny at the time because I was arrested. But I got I don't know, I guess I've been obsessed with it ever since. Like, when I got to hear that story back online, because they put it on their website if you win, so I got to hear it back, and I was like, "Oh, this is funny," and everyone's laughing, and I really like this. And so one year I got talked into trying out for Boise's funniest person, which I did not win. I was Boise's 11th funniest person that year.
I mean, it's a big town. It's a big town.
It's a big town. It's massive. So I've been doing it ever since, really. Just I think it's been like 11 years now.
Wow. And like, how regularly do you do shows? Like, are there a lot of comedy venues where you are, open mic, or like, how's it work?
Well, there's a bunch of open mics now. When I started, there was one comedy club called Liquid Laughs, so that's where I started, and the competition was there. I started my first regular shows there, Jack Mormon Comedy Hour for Latter-day Sinners. Mm-hmm. And we do prefer the full title. Thank you. And the Mom Jokes show, like dad jokes, but better. And that, you're right. That's all that's on the poster initially. It was just like mom jokes, like dad jokes, but better. And everybody you hand it to is like, "That's nice." Or if they're a dad, they're like, Yeah. I got a little like, but I started those 2 shows there, and they did really well. So the owner, gave me a monthly spot. So I did a whole lot of work in December one year to plan a whole year of different shows every month in this spot. And that was in 2020. So
it wasn't a good year for comedy.
It was not a good year. I made it to, I got the January and February shows in, and then March's show was canceled. So at that point I started doing curbside comedy shows here, just in the Treasure Valley. I'd take a 1-woman comedy show to your, lawn, to your like cul-de-sac or your, front step or something. And we'd stay 6 feet away from each other. And just do a little comedy show that way. I came in clown too, so it was like a whole thing. But I learned a whole lot that year about how to tell jokes to lots of different kinds of people, how to just keep going. I gained a lot of perseverance that year. So when things opened up in Idaho, which they did pretty early because this is the Wild West, we a friend and I that were both producing pretty regularly, got in with this local brewery called Mad Sweet, and they had a spot downtown. So we've got to just set up all these shows, boom, 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 and we're just like, we're gonna do as much as we can and see if we can build this. And 4 years later, Jesus Christ, it's 2024.
Yep.
4 years later, we've really built something really pretty cool. It's got a regular crowd that comes in. It's not a proper comedy venue like you would think of in any regular city, like I am out here in Idaho, and we do the best we can with what we have.
So for my sins, I've never been to Idaho. I've traveled probably more than a lot of people around the United States. So I worked upstate New York for 3 years. I traveled up and down the East Coast quite a lot. I was actually I was out there for 9/11 of all things. I was working upstate New York. Yeah, that was I was 18.
We all remember where we were then.
Well, I was in bed in West Palm Beach, but all my family thought I was still in New York because I didn't tell them I'd got the bus down a couple of days. Yeah. So I've like traveled up and down the East Coast, and
that's why you always tell your family where you're going.
Well, it was, there was no social media back then. We were 18. Yeah. I've also done Route 66, which was fascinating because you get to see some like places that you would never choose to visit ever.
There's a lot of places in America like that.
Yeah, I'm thinking like chloride in Arizona, I think was a particular favorite of mine. And like just being able to drive for hours and the mountains on the horizon never get closer. They just stay there.
Right.
So the furthest north we went on that trip, we did go off and went up to Grand Canyon and didn't quite go into like Monument Valley. Saw it, but didn't really go in there. But I've never experienced.
So you haven't quite been into the Rocky Mountains.
No. I've got friends and family in Colorado. I've got some really close friends in Oregon, which. He made a point of telling me. Yeah, he was like, "Oh yeah, Idaho. That's like the next state over to the right."
Yeah, we're in between those two places.
Yeah, and I was like, "Well, the next state over to the left would be Japan." I mean, geography's not that bad. I kind of know where Oregon is. So I don't know a lot. So maybe for my British audience, could you maybe just tell us some of the crowning features of Idaho so they can really get a feel for where you're at?
Idaho is like, it's about the same size landmass wise as England, as the UK, as the island, right? And it's very much an island. There's no major cities like in a 6-hour drive circle. It's a lot of wilderness. So it's not like, oh, what do you, well, you can't fucking build a city like New York in the Rocky Mountains. It takes a lot of infrastructure. You got to find big plateaus, then you can, so there's a lot of wilderness. So there's a lot of like, I like to say Idaho's like 50 years behind.
Okay.
And, everybody, it's not like I'm the only one that said that. I didn't coin that. We're 50 years behind. That's a known thing here. The internet's made it so we're maybe like 20 years behind. We're starting to catch up. We can see you guys out there. But it was just a lot of farming families, a lot of Mormons, initially in the like beginning of Idaho's a young state is the other thing. One thing to consider about America is that like, not every state is as old as America.
And America's not that old as a country. It's
America's
not that
old either. So there's that. And I have a lot of thoughts and feelings about that. And the youth of the state of Idaho, as well. Like, I think it's like just at the turn of the century.
Well, that's interesting because from my limited experience of your comedy, I've spent a few days watching your stuff. Is it fair to say it's quite modern and quite progressive as like your themes?
My themes? Yeah, for sure. I mean, compared to, I guess, my community, I think if you took me to New York, I probably don't sound that outrageous.
No.
But in Boise,
but it's interesting,
Idaho.
Like in an old-fashioned state. So I saw some photos that you put on social media recently of like some of the outfits that you've worn at a show possibly last week. Like, it's awesome. Like, it's so out there, and it was why I was really keen to meet you. Because
the Jack Mormon Comedy Hour was on Saturday, and I that is
Yeah.
I made some strong decisions fashion-wise for that.
That you did. And so how does that go down in like an old-fashioned state in the Wild West?
Ha, exactly the way you think it would.
Okay.
It's a funny thing because, if you grew up, for the audience, right, that's a lot of, obviously ex-Mormons at that show, or disaffected Christians of some other American Christian cult, a different flavor. We have so many, and none of them are very accepting.
Okay.
To people that are even just a little different. Just, there's one way you can be in any one of these sort of Christian cults, whether it's the Mormons or the Jehovah's Witnesses or the Quakers, the Bakers, the Candlestick Makers, the Catholics. And I mean, everybody's had to deal with the Catholics. There's only one way you can be, and you don't get to be any other way. And it becomes very isolating. So part of that show is getting all of those people there together again. Like, you're not alone. Here we all are. Here's all the colorful ways we're taking it and processing it.
Yeah.
And the underwear bit, especially because so many cults like to control your underwear. Your underwear especially got a lot of thoughts. They got a lot of rules about your underwear, and Mormonism is one of those ones that does. And it's hilarious. You look at the picture of it is just funny. It's not anything but funny. And so being able to play with that in a way where, this thing that was sacred, and held a lot of relevance and shame and sort of controlled your life really in a lot of ways. The underwear specifically in Mormonism, I think it's cathartic for everyone to see them made fun of in such a way that's like, and I have no shame doing it whatsoever, because they were never sacred to me. I didn't earn those magic underwear, those garments. Somebody donated them to me. I was never a good Mormon. So it's very easy for me to put them on and be silly in them. And that helps to sort of like strip away the sacredness of it all and the shame that's attached to it. So the people there, right, and already a part of it, it's only ever a good reception. And I've been thanked more times than I've been roasted by the conservatives for it. That being said, it's definitely stirred things up in my family. Not that that's a new thing. Like, I came out of Mormonism 17 years ago now, and I did not come out in a quiet way. I was like, hey, Merry Christmas. It's a cult. We should tell the children, Did you guys know? I was horrified, and I needed everyone to know. And I learned that's not good for your personal relationships. And I love these people, and I get it too. I've had some bad ideas that I believed strongly, and no amount of opposition was going to help me see that. People come to conclusions on their own. And so that show and what I do there is for those of us that are already there. So if you saw that picture and you are a good Mormon, you shouldn't have been on that side of the internet. Yeah,
so I don't want to jump too much into politics, but it's an election year, so over here and over there, so there's the opportunity for
joy.
There's an opportunity for change, but it's unlikely. Is Idaho a red state? Okay, all right.
Boy, is it?
Okay, I had to clarify because I don't know loads about.
And they are proud of that.
I mean, I've got no knowledge really west of west of Chicago, unless it's California, which isn't really the West, is it?
No. They lost that a long time ago, really. Yeah, it's a pretty red state. It's not red like America is weird because every place is very different. So if you're looking at it from the outside, you could see red and blue states. But why people are conservative here in Idaho, say, and how they express their conservatism is different than, say, the Mississippi South, which is very different than the Texas South.
Yeah.
You have a lot of different melting pots in each of these places. So it is red, it is conservative, and I mean, it is conservative in a sort of Mormon way. Not as bad as Utah is conservative in a Mormon way, but we call Idaho like Mormon light. It's like light, it's diet Mormonism.
Okay.
It's Mormon, but you can have a Coca-Cola. You know what I'm saying? You can drink coffee, but keep it to yourself.
Wow. So was the Mormonism, was that familial? What, were your family Mormons?
Yeah. So my dad's side of the family is all still Mormon. My immediate family, so my parents and my sisters, aren't. But they did raise us sort of. It's called Jack Mormon, which is why that show is called Jack Mormon. That's being a bad Mormon, right? Like a black sheep. So we were the black sheep family, sort of in the community. My mom was a convert though, so she grew up like more Southern Baptist in Florida. So she's also like woman from Florida. And then her dad came out as gay and her parents got divorced. And then she converted to Mormonism, moved west. And they never told us about that, which is always a funny part of that whole thing. I always think,
So when we talk about like religion and sort of liberal beliefs and conservative Christians not being on board with that, I'm always reminded of like a Bill Hicks skit. You must be familiar, where he's like telling jokes about religion. And he goes at the back, and the guy's like, "Hey, buddy, we heard what you said about Christianity. We don't like it." And he's like, "Forgive me, then." And they're like, "We don't like it." "Forgive me. You're Christians." And I think a lot of that is lost. It's like a lot of Christians never read the New Testament. It's like they're still on fire and brimstone. It's like that there was the Sermon on the Mount. The Sermon on the Mount, and then the forgiveness and loving your neighbor, and what happened to like love everybody? Any side notes? Nope, just love everybody. Just be good to each other. Forgiveness of debt, and loving your fellow man. That kind of got lost a little bit, and we're still on fire and brimstone.
Yeah. It's a funny thing because there are some great bits in that. When I came out of Mormonism, I didn't go straight from Mormonism to atheist. I went from Mormonism to like born again Christian. So I had like that kind of American fire first for a second.
Yeah.
And I read the Bible a whole lot. And it was, I like to tell people it was the Bible and a thorough study of the Bible that made me an atheist in the end. I was like, this is clearly written by men with ulterior motives. Like, I can see the writer here. So it's, that's you really hit it on the head. That is accurate.
I mean, we don't have so much of that over here. I mean, there are people like that, but my feeling from the outside is when you're looking at the United States, it is a massive country. Like you can drive for days, and having driven, it took us 16 days to do Route 66. Like it was a long time. Yeah. And the thought of driving for 16 days in this country, well, I'd go up and down the country 16 times. And I kind of feel like everything in the United States is bigger. And that means like beliefs and prejudices and all of these things, like whatever it is that your thing is magnified, like that fish that grows to its tank. And you guys have got a big tank, a really big tank.
We do. And that's
that definitely can happen, because I think you've got so much space. You can get little pockets of things. Like, for instance, when I went to England, one thing I was with Chris a couple years ago, several years ago now. Time goes faster as you get older.
Yeah.
But, we went to England and everything, right? We went to this little village, and it looks, in my mind, right, as an American, like this, like it's going to be smaller than Weezer, where I'm from, which is this tiny little town. Weezer, whatever you picture. When I say Weezer, you're correct. Weezer, Idaho. All right. So in my head, this is going to be some tiny, it looks like a little village. Right? It's small, but there's like thousands of cars parked everywhere and thousands of people. There's just thousands and thousands and thousands of people. So you can't not deal with each other's shit.
Yeah.
And in America, especially with, right, you start off with 13 colonies. That all America was this little strip of land. And the rest of this belongs to the native people who are still here and aren't all that impressed with how we're keeping their treaties, if I'm being totally honest.
An understatement, if ever there was one.
All right. Now, that is some unpacking. That's probably not, I hope, happens in my lifetime, but a lot more people are talking about it, honestly, and that's been nice. But each of these places becomes part of America at different times in different ways. And they each have their own, it's almost like the United States of America is the European Union. And all of these little states are the individual different countries. It's more that than it is like the United States is one country.
Oh yeah, so living and working in New York.
Wise.
Yeah, living and working in New York and then visiting Amarillo, Texas, you might as well be in a different country. You speak the same language, but, well, broadly, but
yeah, like TV English.
Yeah, and it's fascinating to travel around the United States, and I really, I would implore British people to go and explore the United States, because you get travel insurance, so you haven't got to worry about hurting yourself.
Well, that's very nice of you.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a fascinating place, and everywhere is so different. But sorry, that was a massive. We've now done religion and politics, which. So
that's all right. I don't keep it light in the things I do.
And if I'm going to get cancelled, I'm going to get cancelled early on in the show. So what were some big influences? Because I can see, like, you had a desire to be involved in theatre because you were involved in theatre and theatrics, but you weren't like that outgoing to begin with. You've done some stand up, and now, like, I don't know, like, what made you really jump into the stand-up thing outside of just doing other theatrical things?
I guess, there's so much to there's so much to that. Oh my goodness. It's a lot of things, really. Like, I really like storytelling. I like making a lot of different kinds of things and writing stories and poems and all kinds of stuff, but nothing has the same power to really influence the audience like comedy does.
Is that your intention then? You want to send a message, you want to educate but also entertain? Like, what's the aim of your comedy?
Yeah. I mean, I think I want to tell the truth and help you laugh about it. And I think when we can be laughing about the truth, we can then be creatively open to solving some of the real problems that we face, in life. I think there's just nothing's been more healing for me personally, for sure, than being able to look at any of the things I've overcome or the traumas that I've had, or just looking out at the world and the state that it's in, like comedy does. And it's such a funny human, it's like the most human thing that we all do. We all share this ability to laugh. And it's not an ability, it's like a reaction. You can't control what you laugh at. Like when I made you laugh at that show, you didn't have any, I got that out of you. Like,
yeah.
And because we're all human, and that is real. You know what I mean? Like the thing that it provoked it was true, and this moment was real, and I like that, and I like sharing in those moments with people. I think, which is why I like the more live stand-up comedy. This is like a dance we're doing here. It's just you and me, and we all go away with something. Like I'm planting seeds, and I want them to grow in a way that, you know, hopefully, especially just from, you know, my past and with the Mormonism and just that kind of like super, I don't think it's good to be so rigid. It's not good for the human creature, or anything that grows. Life grows. It's wild and free. And I want you to go away feeling safe, to be free in yourself. And I think comedy has a unique way of helping people see things they wouldn't otherwise see, and coping with it.
Yeah. And I guess you're showing other people that they're not alone in whatever it is they're going through, because there's this funny girl standing on stage talking about it.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like I remember the first Jack Mormon show, and it just, the reception and the people that talked to me afterwards, I didn't, you know, I was doing it initially because I liked telling jokes and I liked hearing people laugh, and I know I liked that. But it wasn't until after the Jack Mormon show that I was like, oh, this can mean something. This can mean something. And I don't like, my personality doesn't like doing things that don't mean something to me. Like I don't have any patience for it. I'll just leave.
So, I mean, what did you initially set out to do? Like school, college? Like what was your plan in the early days? Did you have one?
No. It's interesting because in Idaho so small, and weeds are so small, and you know, if you have big ideas like I want to go win an Oscar, I want to go make movies, or I want to be an artist, you're definitely unique in that, in a small town, in a rural town. And if you don't have a whole lot of encouragement in that and resources put into that, there's no opportunity for you to, there's no place for you to do that. Like, where am I going to learn how to tell jokes in Weiser, Idaho? Like, where am I even going to tell these jokes? At the class reunion? Fuck off. I don't think so. No, you know, like, so yeah, you can't, none of that stuff was there. So we didn't necessarily have that. I certainly had those like daydream, I would call them more daydreams and hopes than like a goal to do something theatrical or perform in some way or be artistic or whatever. Like these are things I wanted to do, but in a small town, you only have the resources you have.
Yeah.
And when I left Weiser, like, because initially I got married and I bought a house and I contributed to the housing crisis in 2008.
Well done.
Yeah, exactly. I won't be buying a home again. I'm happy with how that actually went. But no, I've lived a lot of different lives. So I didn't start off with this plan like, oh, I'm going to go do this thing, I ended up with a boyfriend that was living with me, and that's not, you can't do that. So you should just get married. And so then we're married, and now we own this home, and we shouldn't be married. And that's not where I belong. And I'm, volunteering with the little theater there because, it's theater at least. And then, long story short, we got divorced, and I left my house and just came to Boise and decided to live out of my car for a while, and had a sort of wild ride before I found myself sort of with an apartment and a job, and going to that story night where I sort of got reintroduced back into performing even.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds like a bit of an ordeal, but
yeah, it was.
Funny. I had a conversation with one of my guests like a couple of weeks ago, and we kind of were both talking about some tough times that we'd both experienced, and it really is like you don't appreciate the highs without the lows, and the lows are like bad. When you're there, you're like, how on earth am I ever going to get out of this? And when you do, you look back and you can appreciate what you've got, and without those lows, you become Kanye, because everything's up here. So you've got to go and do like other crazy things to get your highs.
Poor Kanye. God, I wish he had better friends.
But as much as it sucks, that in those bad times when you're living out of your car, or the example I gave was I was in the shops and I was like, do I buy soap or food? Because I only have this amount of money. And when you're in those places, when you look back on that, you're like, well, I don't want to be there again. And I'm in this place now, and I can really appreciate what I've got. I can now appreciate like having a little bit more money than I had then, and having my daughter and wanting to spend time with her and things like that, like that I didn't have back then.
Yeah. No, you definitely hustle to keep it.
Yeah. And I think there's something noble about having been in a bad place and got out of it. And not everyone does, and that is a sad truth.
Yeah. No, that is. And there's a lot of, I think, unique perspective I have as I'm living a very middle class Caucasian life in a nice neighborhood, and I've been a lot of places that aren't this life, and I have peers now that are in this. They're part of the PTA, or have real jobs, like they're dentists or some shit. And I have a unique perspective to add that, and this goes into the comedy too. Like, I think it helps to, if you're going to make any art, live a different life, go make some bad decisions and rack up some experiences, see some people and places from different perspectives. And otherwise, what are you making into art? Like, what are you making, and for who? And you have to go out there and live a little and see the people.
Yeah, and people are fascinating.
People are, and they're mostly, I think they're mostly good everywhere, really. As many pickles as I've been, I do think that most people are good everywhere you go, and sometimes they just look scary.
Well, we have to assume that people are inherently good, and I had a really negative interaction with a person last week, and it really upset me. Someone that didn't know me was giving me a hard time because they thought I'd done something that I hadn't, and there were other people around that were saying, no, he didn't do that. I won't go into detail, but anyway, the person that was giving me a really hard time was saying things to me that weren't true and were very upsetting. And I got quite a thick skin, but it did upset me. And I just had to kind of like say to myself, I don't know what she's gone through. She might be having a bad day. She might be having a bad week. I don't know her life. She might just be a bitch. I don't know. So I just have to leave it. What's done's done. There's no repercussions, and everyone's walked away. There were no one threw fists down, but I can't like stay angry at that woman because she said something mean to me, because I don't know her life. I don't know what's going on with her. So you know what? I wish her well, and I hope she's okay. And it's hard to do that in the moment when someone, because we're emotional creatures. If someone's in your face, you want to like, fight back, or defend yourself at least. Yeah. Like,
yeah, there's a reaction, whatever that reaction is, you're going to have a reaction. One thing I tell my kids about that I remind myself of often, because I am a very sensitive person, and like I won't participate in a roast battle. I'm too sensitive.
yeah.
I don't like that, but it's important. It's important not to take everything too personally, and that is difficult. That is hard. It's hard not to, take in other people's negative emotions or negative opinions about you or what you've done or what have you. And I tell my kids and myself that it's none of my business what they think about me, and they're sharing that with me, and that's fine. But it's still none of my business what they think about me. They can have that. They can have that. And I have many opinions. There's plenty of things that I don't like. And if I'm always like, you got things that you don't like too, and you want to have that. You don't like that. Let them have it. It's theirs.
From the outside, there's a whole lot of people that are offended over a lot of things for a country that really espouses freedom of speech really heavily. So, just putting it out there.
I know, right? It's like snow is falling everywhere.
So changing the subject dramatically to something far closer to home.
All right.
Doctor Who Velocity.
Yes.
I like it. It was my first experience of Krystal Moore was watching you as the Doctor.
Nice.
And I really liked, the first episode I've watched through. I haven't watched all of them. I watched them out of order, so there's a couple I've missed. But watching the first episode, obviously, they're talking about my neck of the woods. The places that you go in that episode are like 5 minutes down the road from here. So again, and that's obviously Chris's influence in these little weird towns in Essex.
He definitely has the knowledge, for sure.
But you're credited as writing it. Are you a fan of Doctor Who?
Yeah. I wrote that one. I just wanted to, because it was the witches aspect. I thought it would be like the first place I need to go. The first thing we need to address is, because from my perspective with the Doctor, right, the meat of the story here, if you make this character who is traditionally male and has been for many decades, female, and you put her now in these same scenarios, she will be received differently, period, just because she's a female. And that's part of the story. That's a major part of the story from my perspective. So I wanted to start there with the witch trial specifically, because we've had the Doctor go into this time frame, to this time period. What if the Doctor were female? Because she would be burned for being a witch, for sure,
Yeah.
And it was fun to explore that. It was fun to the witch that we chose, Agnes Waterhouse. That's a real historical character, and I like to think that she was very much like the others, but who knows? But yeah, I just felt like it was so rich with storytelling opportunities and character development there, and really being able to say something about gender and society and rules and a variety of things. And that's the neat thing about Doctor Who anyways. You can go to all these different times and really explore the things that happen there from a different perspective. And yeah, I love the episodes that, those are some of my favorite episodes when they go do those kinds of things, because it's such a, the whole character, everything about the story is set up for that, right? To kind of teach history in a way. But when we look back at history, when we retell ourselves these stories, we can see how things have and haven't changed, the ways people are always the same, and the ways that society also shapes people. History is one of my favorite things anyway, so that's probably why I always like Doctor Who. Yeah, I definitely like a good history documentary.
It's definitely a fun way of visiting history, and as we know, history is written by the victors, so you've got to look at different sources. And
exactly,
I read a quote the other day that really stuck with me, and so we'd have a different opinion of hunters if lions could write books, and I like that. I really like that. So on the Doctor, where do you get these wacky ideas from? Chris was talking about like Boglins and Tron and things being influences because we're the same age, so we grew up with the same kind of 80s pop culture stuff. But how do you turn that into a Doctor Who adventure?
Oh God! Well, Chris is a magician. Is how we turn that into it. He's been to Hogwarts or something. Because my idea that first one is very going back in history. This is something I'm thinking stage props, and those are more my backgrounds. And Chris is very adept with all of the computer graphics and AI. I'm sure he's friends with the AI. It's like he has inputted a lot of information into the ChatGPT. So I sometimes I think, when the AI does take over, they're going to recognize Chris.
Yeah, he'll be okay.
He's been talking to that bitch for so long. So, he's definitely got a lot more of the sci-fi, it requires computer graphics kinds of ideas. And initially I had no idea how that would look or what he was going to be able to do. When we film it, you can see this is that's what it looks like for me. Mm. Okay. You see the TARDIS, that looks cool. That's what it looked like for me. You see that planet, that's what it looked like for me. Sometimes we go to this, we've gone to the studio and there's, white screen or green screen, but more often than not, like a lot of the scenes are filmed literally right here in my living room. And I can see, maybe you can see all the kids' toys that are on either side of everything.
Just kick them out of the way and film.
Yeah, we just like push everything to the side. It's just like, all right, go. And so I just know at this point that he's gonna take all of that and then he's gonna like and make some magic, and then it's gonna look like a freaking sci-fi in the end. And I just trust him because I have no idea how he works all of that magic. I show up, I learn my lines, and I film. And it's sometimes I get to make little props, which is nice. Like I made some of the little Daleks, and I made my I brought it.
That's a cool bag. Oh, your sonic screwdriver.
Yeah, I made my sonic screwdriver, right? So. I'm a little more physically crafty.
Okay.
So I'll make things like this. And then Chris puts the light in it and makes it look like it's not a bunch of beads and Legos spray painted. It looks mechanical, right? Or this little guy here.
Oh, I'm glad we got some context now.
Right. But that's just a popsicle stick. That's the top of an egg. Oh no, that's the top of a bottle, right? Like some Lego bits here. So Chris takes that and makes it look like it is a robot. He's how all of that stuff happens. And Chris is,
and he's been doing that for as long as I've known him, which is like coming on 25 years. Like it's
yes, exactly. He
is a wizard.
I feel a little bit like I'm cheating there because I don't have to do much work with any of that. He's got a mountain of experience in all of this, and he loves doing it. He's so fun to work with that.
And it is time consuming. So like you've been doing it's a little over an episode a year for 6 years, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that sounds about right.
So, what's your production schedule like? Because you know it's not a full-time gig. It's not a money-making gig. It's just for fun. So, how do you get around to
Yeah.
filming it?
Well, yeah, so Chris will usually contact everybody somewhere right after once the script is written, right? We all come together and we'll have a little read, and then he will get with everybody's schedules, and he's really good. He's a very good TV producer. He puts all that
Yeah.
Experience to work, and he does it in such a way that you almost don't even. It's not like you had to take a week out of your life to go film this thing. You had like a couple hours on a Saturday night, or a couple hours on a Tuesday night, or a Saturday afternoon, and he really tries not to, because it is something that we're doing for free. We're not spending any of our money on it. We're not, if you're volunteering your time, and we want to be very respectful of that. I don't like having my time just wasted. So, he's very good at organizing all of that. So the production schedule for everyone else that works on it is pretty easy. Like it's whatever day you can be there. And it's convenient for you, and we will buy you pizza, and we will not keep you more than 4 hours, like max.
Okay.
Because we appreciate that you're volunteering your time, and this is a passion project for all of us. We don't want to burn anybody out. Chris's production schedule, on the other hand, is completely insane, because he's working on it.
He's a hard worker.
At his laptop.
He's a hard
worker.
Yeah.
It is not human, I don't think. Like, no, not everybody can put that much work into anything, especially like sitting at a computer kind of work. Like, I give him props, because if I had to make this Doctor Who by myself, I'd have done one episode, and I'd be like,
done.
Well, that was good. That was good, you guys. That was a lot of hard work. We all did great, and I never want to do that again. It's so much work. But yeah, he's really pretty special in that way, and I feel very lucky to get to make those kinds of fun. Like, I'm in Idaho. I'm not making. Who the fuck's gonna book me to make Doctor Who or be in Doctor? I'm not in Doctor Who. I'm not gonna be in Doctor Who. That's not. Like the trajectory I would have had to make from Boise, Idaho, from Weiser, Idaho, nonetheless, to get to the BBC, to be on actual Doctor Who, is imaginary, frankly. So I feel so lucky, really, because it's a blast, and everyone that watches it, that enjoys it is really they're just lovely. They're all lovely Doctor Who fans, and it's really neat to kind of enjoy that with them. And there's some pretty decent little local crowd too. That's just they're like, oh, I don't know if Chris said it on his podcast, but there's a TARDIS here in Boise. Yeah, he did. Oh my God, he didn't tell. Yes, there is a literal TARDIS in Boise. So we have this idea, right? Because my first idea was like a comedy sketch, like, oh, it would be funny if we put her in some of the same circumstances, right? And so, initially we're just thinking about this, and Chris goes online and starts researching Doctor Who fan films and fan series and TARDISes and all kinds of things, and he sees online there is a TARDIS in Boise, Idaho, and it's like literally just down the street, State Street, right? He's on the north side, I was on the south side. The TARDIS is on State Street. So we go to this shop, Repop, and there's a fucking stage accurate TARDIS. Okay, it's gorgeous. It's probably better built than BBC's. And don't at me, I don't know. But it is a very nice, well built TARDIS. And so, we got they're a little locally owned gift shop, like Repop, and has like Doctor Who kind of things. It's a gift shop. Star Wars. They have all kinds of different stuff. So yeah, there's a literal TARDIS. We got to film our actual like TARDIS opening door kind of scenes in the TARDIS, which was so funny. So that's a massive little local follow, because there's people that that know the shop and like the shop, and that's not the only thing they've built in there. So there's we've got a good little group of Doctor Who fans locally that are fun to play with about once a year when we release an episode.
And asking the really difficult questions now, like we've touched on some controversial stuff, but I got a favorite Doctor.
Oh, well, if this is going to feel so basic, but Tennant is definitely my favorite Doctor.
Okay,
probably
that's respectable.
Because he had the best writing.
Yeah.
Like he's an incredible actor and he had an incredible writing. Mwah. Lovely. Yeah. He was a fun character to follow. And you root for him all the way.
Yeah. And he didn't want to go. Like he was.
Nobody else did. Nobody wanted him to go. We were all like, what? Why?
So we're rewatching at the moment. We're kind of up to the last season of Matt Smith. And it's really enjoyable. Like, Sylvester McCoy was my Doctor as a child, so I've always got a special place. But Christopher Eccleston he's just brilliant. He's my favorite. My favorite.
I think that's Chris's favorite is Christopher Eccleston, and I can appreciate. I think when it came to America, probably it's funny because the one you had as your childhood, so your first Doctor. That's your first Doctor. That Tennant was my first Doctor when it came to America, and we were, watching it on cable over here. It was Tennant, and for sure, became that's where it became huge over here.
Yeah,
is on the back of David Tennant,
and he's a big star now. He's in a lot of stuff, so he's not some low budget BBC guy. Okay.
No, like he definitely. I mean, he's got that Tennant riz,
Yeah. Oh, he does. And how do you balance all of this? Like you do a lot. Like you're an interesting person. You're doing comedy. You're doing Doctor Who fan films, and you're also a mum. So how do you balance like being a mum with doing loads of cool stuff?
Oh gosh. Well, I definitely, the being a mom is first. For sure. Like, I didn't think, it's funny because I didn't think that would be the case. I was definitely like, especially with the Mormon upbringing and it being very like, you're a wife and you're a mother and that's all you get to be. And that never felt right for me. So when I did find myself a mother, I was like, oh no, but I love being a mother and I love my kids and I enjoy hanging out with them. Like I enjoy these people that I made. So it's not hard to put them first to like, because it's not, I'm not like sacrificing anything. I enjoy hanging out with them. I like these people. I'd rather be here or on stage. I don't want to be in an office. I can't do that. Office, no, stage or home with my kids. So I think one of the ways I balance this is I've kept my career local, which is, I know, like, as a comedian, as any performer, it's like you have to go to New York or LA, or London. London gets some attention for this. You can be a performer in London or New York or LA, and that's it. You can't do it anywhere else because nobody is watching anything anywhere else.
Nope, that's it.
They don't even have eyes anywhere else. So one way I keep a good balance is I keep my career local. Like I do local shows. I enjoy getting my community out to these shows. I try to, I'm not selling any of these comedy shows on who I am, on me. It's not like, my name's not on the marquee. It's the Jack Mormon Comedy Hour for Latter-day Sinners. And I book a whole bunch of other ex-Mormon artists, comedians, burlesque performers, drag performers, and everybody gets to sort of share in this. And everybody that's here is here for this thing, or if it's mom jokes, you know, then moms and these guys are moms. But I think that's helped me keep a balance on all of this, is not feeling like I have to go to LA to be a comedian. I don't have to go to New York to be a comedian. And I've visited these places and I have seen, and it costs a lot of money and it costs a lot of time. And, you know, my kids are only kids while they're kids. And then after that, I have to have an adult relationship with them.
Yeah.
And they're gonna, you know, whatever that adult relationship is the one that I earned. That's the one I earned. And I want
people who don't have kids. People who don't have kids will probably hear like it changes things. And I don't think until you've got children of your own, you really understand how much it changes things. And having kids isn't a burden. It does change things. It changes your life because your priorities change. Like there is very little I wouldn't do for my little girl. And that my life changed. I don't go out to bars and clubs and I probably don't go to the cinema or theater as much as I'd like to, because I love spending time with my family. I love spending time with my little girl. And to people that don't have kids, they're like, oh, you know, can you come out? I was like, well, no. Oh, is it because you got a little one? Well, yeah, but I want to hang out with her. Like, I like her. So,
like, have you met her? She's great.
Yeah, she's awesome. She's like,
I
grew her. Well, I mean, I didn't grow her.
Shit.
But yeah, exactly.
No, but I get to be like, yo, I grew these two people. They're dope as fuck. I want to hang out with them. Sorry, I'm amazed at my ability to grow incredible people and want to hang out with them.
That's quite the superpower. You grew two human beings. That's pretty cool.
We don't talk about it enough. We should only frame it in that way.
Yeah.
And everybody was grown by a lady, by a woman. All people were made by women, manufactured.
Yeah. I don't know. I read the book of Genesis. That's not how it happened. That's.
I think that was one of the first ones to like really deconstruct there. Like I had because when you're in it, right, you just like take everything serious, right? You're like holding on to this. But that like woman came from man was definitely like only a man would write that.
It's compensating for something there.
Exactly. And nature tells us differently and has for like ever. So that is just a lie. Like you can't, that's only a lie. And once that lie, I think, cracked, that's where my raging feminism really first started to grow. Was like, that's it. That's the first lie, and you've been fucking us with this one ever since.
Page 1 of the Old Testament, and that's it, you're done.
Done. This is bullshit. This is clearly a lie.
Didn't even read the rest.
It's reverse, actually.
Yeah. Okay. So what's next for Krystal Moore then? Like where's the Krystal Moore empire? When do we get the tower in New York City?
Oh, well, these are revolution titties. I'm not about empires. I'm only deconstructing empires. So,
okay.
What that looks like, I don't know. It's been a funny kind of ride because like the title stand-up comedian sounds very cool. Like you get to be like, I'm a stand-up comedian, and people get to be like, oh my God, you do that. But really, I feel like I'm a clown. Like I'm a clown. I'm a fool at the end of the day. And the like spiritually, I'm a fool. I'm a clown. And that's the meat of it. So wherever the chaos magic takes me,
next. I didn't plan on being here, I didn't see this coming as a child. I didn't think one day I'll be standing in someone's front yard in full clown face with a bag full of dolls ready to give a stand-up comedy show. I did not think that. I'm as surprised as everyone else. So what it looks like in 10 years, fuck, I don't know what the world looks like in 10 years. How are you doing surviving late stage capitalism there in the core of the empire?
I am waiting for the world to just kind of like, if can the empire not just fall a little bit quicker? Because it's tough at the moment. Just waiting for the fall of Western civilization. Come on, hurry up!
If these rich people would just give up already, just because we don't even want to hurt them or eat them. I don't want to eat the rich. I just want them to go away, mind their own fucking business, leave us alone. I'm
thinking about investing in pitchforks, because I think they're going to take to the streets. We're going to some pitchforks and torches, and that's all we've got left.
We got to do something. I don't know. I mean, I'm employing chaos magic in clown face. Like when it all falls, I'm putting on the clown face. I'm getting all of my things, and I'm like, all right, we'll see where this circus takes us.
I mean, I think that's probably as good a place as any to wrap this up. I am absolutely over the moon that you came on the show, because you are a hilarious and interesting person, and any nerves I had about talking to you, which I've been thinking about all day, dispelled as soon as you came on, and I could see you're just like a really good-hearted, fun person. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. No, that means a whole lot. I mean, I do want to scare you a little bit on stage, especially if you're a man, and you're in the audience. I do want you to feel terrified, but just enough to give me some rights, So I'm glad you feel that way.
and you did. And I said to you earlier off camera, I'm a girl dad. So as soon as that little girl, they hand her to you, and it's a girl, like, oh man, now I've got to make the world a better place for women. Oh man, I didn't see that coming. So,
oh shit, this affects me now.
Yeah, this is my problem now, and that's all I want to do. I just want to make sure she's safe and happy, and if anyone wrongs her, then the weight of the world has come down on them. So I'm on your side. All right. Well,
we as many as we can get,
Yeah, and thank you so much for sharing an hour of your time with my massively male British audience who are going to understand none of this. So thank you.
That's all right, because it's them and the massively male audience over here in America as well that we need to get to the most. I don't know if you're aware who's causing the problem here.
It's me. Basically, just me.
It's the boys. If you guys could talk to each other, you guys could just talk to each other.
I don't have enough money. No one's listening to me.
Nicer to each other? I don't know. Honestly, I've actually learned a lot since having a boy. I had a lot of thoughts just about parenting here. Because I had a girl. I come from a family of all girl cousins. It's just girls. We're up to here at estrogen, right? So then I make a boy, and this is all new to me. I'm learning things. The fellas are sensitive by nature,
but we're not allowed to
be. Exactly. We just gotta be nicer to each other is what I'm saying. Just be a little nicer to each other. Just be nicer to each other.
Yeah,
that's what the women want too. We want you to be nicer to each other.
I have met your son a couple of times, and
that's right at your place.
Yeah, so I've seen one of the children that you grew, and I got to say he's a good kid. I see a lot of kids that come through our doors, and he's a good kid. So you're doing something right. And seeing the way that Chris was with him, I imagine you guys parent in very similar ways. It's great, and we need more of that. There's a lot of generational stuff from our parents and our grandparents and our great grandparents. I mean,
exactly.
Probably particularly, and we can undo a lot of that, and we can actually be nice to our children and grow them into really well-rounded people.
Look at us, Brad, breaking generational trauma.
Yeah,
look at us overcoming gender stereotypes. We're gonna heal the world. It's gonna be fine.
Just the two of us. Oh, and Chris can join us as well, and Tash. So there's four of us. There's at least four of us. So
there's at least four of us. We can do it.
But thank you so much for your time. I'm going to let you go now. But before I do, could you just tell people where they can find Krystal Moore? Where can we find stuff about you online?
Awesome. Yeah, I have a website. It is www.thekrystalmoore.com. And that is, I'll remind you, Krystal spelled like a stripper would spell it.
With a K.
With a K. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on the TikTok. I love TikTok. Probably too much. I love it so much.
I'm not there.
No? Oh,
no.
Okay. I love it. I am on TikTok, but I'm more of a lurker. So if you come and you follow me, I'm not like a TikToker or anything. So, that's where you can find me.
Cool. Well, thank you very much.
Webs.
I'll post some links down below, and I'm sure that some of our conversations will elicit some responses from people. So that's great, because hate clicks are as good as any click.
Right.
But thank you for your time, and I just look forward to editing this and reading or watching through again. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I hope you have is it evening or morning over there?
It is evening. It's 9:30 p.m., so it's a late one for us.
Oh, very nice. So then I hope you have a very, very nice evening and a beautiful night's sleep.
Oh, thank you.